Now, 8 people have died in recent floods in the northern region. 4 deaths were recorded in the Tamale metropolis and 4 in Karaga district. 2 persons who were injured and admitted at the Karaga hospital have also been discharged. This was revealed by the Northern Regional Coordinator of NADMO, Alhaji Abdullah Hindu in Tamale. This is happening before the expected opening of the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso, which will also cause flooding in that part of the country. Let's first of all get the picture of what's happening in the northern region. Martina Bugri is on the ground for us and joins us on the line. Martina, what can you report this morning from the northern region?
Currently, for a week now, the rain has ceased, and so the place is beginning to dry up. But some areas.
Martina, your line is very unclear. Can you reposition yourself?
Is it okay now?
It's getting better, but please do something about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's much better now. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Currently, for a week now, it hasn't rained, and so the place is dry. But some areas like Bimbila, Oba, Pandai, we still have homes and farms flooded because of continuous rain. Somewhere like if you are traveling from Bimbila to get to the community and would have to stop and stop with a canoe before you can get to the other side and join the vehicle to Wendy. And so we have places that are still water, but Tamale metropolis, fortunately, is dried up now.
So you're naming some of the areas which have been affected by the flood. What is the extent, the full extent, that is, of the devastation?
Farmlands were washed away. We gather over 1,000 farmlands were washed away, and so they washed crops that were planted. Animals also died, and so communities that are mostly rural and poor obviously will be affected when the dry season or when the harvesting season comes.
And have the affected persons in this recent flood been catered for?
Some have not been catered. Those I spoke to in the Nanumba North District said not in that area district, but they are yet to receive relief. But in Tamale and Saneko district, yes, some have had relief.
Right. Thank you very much, Martina Bugri, for that update on the happenings in the northern parts of the country. Now, in the studio with us is Assistant Meteorologist with Ghana Meteorological Agency, Frederick Otu Larbi. We want to try and understand the causes of this year's increased flooding from a weatherman's point of view. Mr. Otu Larbi, thank you for your time. In the first place, we've seen increased flooding this year as a result of the rains. Is this normal?
Yes, it's fairly normal in the northern parts of the country at this time of the year to have incidents of flooding occurring in the northern parts of the country because they are the peak of the rainy season in the northern region between August and September.
But this year we've seen a lot more flooding than in previous years. What has caused this increase?
Yes, because this year in general across the country we've had more rainfall than we usually experience. So we've had above average rainfall across the country from south all the way to the north. And so it correlates with the kind of flooding incidents that we've seen, particularly in the north.
And why have we seen more rainfall?
Because of conditions that lead to such rainfall events, especially with increasing sea surface temperatures off the Guinea coast, which leads to increased moisture in the atmosphere, and that leads to increased rainfall for the West African sub-region in particular and Ghana as well.
But Mr. Otu Larbi, last year we saw an unnatural dry spell, some called it El Nino. Yeah. So increased temperatures on the sea immediately after this dry spell. How do we correlate that?
Yes, so last year, as you rightly said, was an El Nino year. And what happens is we have a cycle of El Ninos, and the other one is called La Nina. So this year has been a La Nina year, and in a La Nina year, the Gulf of Guinea coast, the sea tends to be warmer. And when that happens, it means you have a lot more moisture coming out from the ocean and pushing inland over the entire West African sub-region. and we tend to have very heavy downpours. It's not just in Ghana, like I said. You heard of the recent incidents in Sierra Leone and so on. There's been above average rainfall in most parts of West Africa, so that's what is leading to the flooding and other weather-related incidences that we are hearing of.
Okay, now we've been joined via Skype by the Deputy Director General of the National Disaster Management Organization, because as you heard, these increased rains that we are experiencing in this La Nina year has brought about some flooding, and not just in Ghana, across the sub-region. Mr. Saji, thank you for your time. It looks like you have your work cut out for you this year.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. And good morning to your viewers as well. Yes, I think in your studio, the meteorological man has already said it. Normally, we rely on information from them, and statistics show that the rain this year will be a bit heavy, especially up north.
So knowing what we know, what have you been doing about this situation? For instance, this recent flood, which saw 8 people dead.
Yes, thank you very much. I think what we normally do, which happened in the case of the northern region, is that when we get this information from the Ghana Meteorological Service, we do what we call education to sensitize the people around the areas that are flood prone. And there are some measures that they will have to take. And when it rains, our men are always at standby, making sure that as soon as something happens, they move in. And the job of NADMO, as you know, when there's a disaster, the first and foremost thing we do is to go in to search and rescue. Then all the other actions follow.
So have these normal protocols been followed in the northern part of Ghana, for instance, since yesterday?
Oh, yes, that has been followed. And normally, immediately after the search and rescue, we do what we call an assessment of those who have been affected, the damage and all that. And it is after that assessment that we move in to do what we call the relief.
What have you uncovered from your assessment of the recent flooding?
You know, the fact is that our own activities contribute to flooding. Water will always find its way, and there are places that are designated as waterways already. And in dealing with these things, it is a whole comprehensive action that needs to be taken that involves the planning authorities and all that. If the place is already built, that is where the challenge is. As we speak, we have a new law that mandates us to go in and move structures that stand on waterways or that will lead to flooding. But we are just operationalizing the new law now, but there are processes.
Right.
But before that,
But Mr. Saji, do you have any numbers? I was hoping that in your assessments you may be able to give us some numbers of people affected and the people who need aid, statistics like that.
Okay. From the assessment we did by the northern region, we had about 2,000 plus for what happened about a few weeks ago. Some of the people have been given relief items already.
How many?
I think we are left with about 2 districts or so.
So how many people have received relief?
I know relief items has been distributed in Tamale, in Sanerugu, in Bimbila, and in Goshegu. Those places have received some relief items. Okay. I only know that Salaga and Saboba also are the ones outstanding.
Okay, Mr. Saji, we'll come back to you for a bit more on this. Mr. Otu Larbi, so your job is prediction, and you have seen that this La Nina year would come. As you said earlier, it's a cycle. What is the advice you give to NADMO and government for the prevention of such disasters?
Well, as you've rightly said, our job is to predict, and then we inform NADMO ahead of the season. So we do our seasonal forecast very early in the season, as early as February. Our seasonal forecasts are ready, and then it goes out to NADMO, it goes out to various ministries, departments and agencies that are in contact with us. And so once that is done, we then expect that these agencies and these other state organizations would also take the needed action.
But are they specific enough for you to be able to tell the areas or maybe the large regions or so where we would have serious flooding?
Exactly. So we divide the country into various units, and then we do the seasonal forecast for them. Additionally, we also go out to some parts of the country, especially in the northern region, where we have we work with NGOs to reach various farmers and community people, and then we speak to them about the upcoming season, what they should expect, when the rains are expected to start, when it's expected to end, if there will be any dry spells, and the likelihoods of such events occurring. And
so what you're telling me is that as far back as February, we were aware as a nation that we would have serious flooding in the northern region, in the central region, in all the areas where we've had flooding?
Yes, we release the seasonal forecast in February, and then by end of March, everybody who needs to know about the seasonal forecast and the various advisories that we add to them is informed. By the end of March, everybody is aware. So
okay, Mr. Saji, from what I'm hearing here, by the end of March, your organization was aware that this year we would have serious flooding across the country. How come we still saw difficulty to reach affected persons?
Well, I don't exactly understand your question, but it is true that we received the forecast early enough. And as I told you earlier on, that our first and foremost responsibility is to make sure that we carry out education. We know the flood-prone areas already.
Mr. Saji, you said that earlier. My question was that you knew at the end of March that we would have serious flooding in these areas in the country, but we still saw that some affected persons had to wait for days before they were reached with aid. How did that happen?
Yes, but I told you, I was just telling you a sequence of our activities. When the disaster happens, the first and foremost intervention is search and rescue. So we are always there as soon as the disaster happens. Immediately after that, we do an assessment to know the level and the extent of damage. Then we know those who are affected. We take a database of those who are affected. Then we move into support. Now, in the north, we didn't have a safe haven situation where we had to designate a place as safe haven and move people there. For that one, it is so easy to reach people with relief items. But when people are affected by floods in their homes, you know the place, but until those people move to come and register, it is difficult to just start distributing relief items. Because when people's homes are flooded, they move out to maybe stay with relatives and so on. As a disaster management organization, first and foremost, after we finish our search and rescue, and maybe the situation subsides a bit, the registration starts. Then
but this is a situation where we
don't even go through the assessment process before we move in with release items. We come in as and when we get the data, we start the process. And that's exactly what happened in the northern region.
Exactly, sir. But in this case, people had to wait for days.
Yes,
and they did not have places, they did not have safe havens, they did not have relief items. And
we moved in on the 6th day. I remember very well that when the incident happened, the next day, the vice president led a team, including our director general, to the north. When they came back, it took 4 days for us to get back there and started using. But within the 4 days, registration was going on.
Okay, so in this year, we'll be seeing the opening of the Bagri Dam. How are we preparing for this event?
Yes, thank you very much. We have had some discussions, and already education has started in the north, especially the areas that are affected when the Bagri Dam is filled. So that process is on. What is happening is that the team is leaving Accra on Thursday to camp at Wale Wale. Yes, it's a team comprising of the district NADMO, regional NADMO, and a technical team from the headquarters, waiting, who are going to become there before the dam is built. And that is the operations we have termed Operation Thunderbolt.
Right. So from Thursday, have we seen enough funds voted to this planning, looking at the number of floods we've experienced this year?
Yes, I think that we have done our best given the circumstance as a disaster management organization. We have been able to reach almost all those who have been affected by disaster across the country.
So now we can say there's a safe haven in northern Ghana.
Well, when we say safe haven, we are not talking that we are not saying that disasters will not happen. When I mentioned safe haven in my earlier comment, yes.
Mr. Saji, you were saying that we do not have a safe haven in the northern parts of Ghana. Do we have that now?
No, I don't know the context in which you are using.
I'm asking of the context in which you used when you said that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to explain. That when we say safe haven, what we mean by that is that when there is a disaster and people don't have place to go, we normally designate a place, normally a public place like a church, a school, and other places where we move people to temporarily. Now, when those people are there, it's so easy to reach them with relief items like mattresses, cooking utensils, food items, administer medications, and so on. But in the northern region, the flooding situation did not necessitate that. The victims moved to the homes of their relatives. So, NADMO, we did not designate a safe haven. That is the context in which I use the word safe haven.
So, Mr. Saji, if the Bagri Dam is open today, will the affected people have places to go?
Yes, we are designating places along the route.
Right, thank you very much.
Places along the route, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seji Saji, for your time. Let me come back to you, Mr. Otu Larbi, for your final words on the matter.
Yes. So as far as the Met Agency is concerned, we will continue to produce the forecast in addition to the seasonal forecasts, daily, weekly forecast, and also for Northern Ghana, we have an SMS program where we send text messages to certain communities and certain opinion leaders to be forwarded to community members. So we will continue to discharge that duty and we will continue to inform the people accordingly.
Thank you very much, Frederick
Otu
Larbi. He's an assistant meteorologist with the Ghana Meteorological Agency. Earlier, you heard Seji Saji, the Deputy Director General of NADMO.